Hello. What I'd like to do is a fairly quick review, given that this is my third take of this. Anyone who knows me knows that saying and talking short is not my thing. I tend to ramble on, which I'm already doing. So, with that, I would like to talk about the Merrell Vapor Glove 2. I came across this shoe through doing a bunch of research probably a couple months ago. I've been looking for probably the last year to slowly move for certain terrains and certain times and certain conditions back into a shoe. I am a complete barefoot runner. I've been running completely barefoot for probably 3 years, completely barefoot, and another 2 years prior to that. Not so much in transition, but because I never transitioned. I went from regular shoes straight to barefoot. But I spent a long time, and I'll talk in other videos and writings about, I moved kind of from walking to just, slow jogs to just, I took my time. It took me about a year and a half to 2 years before I really started to pick up mileage, so to speak. So anyway, it's been about 3 years since I've been in shoes, and where I live up here in northeast Iowa, we have little to no resources for this type of thing. It's just not something people do up here. It might have something to do with the 5 months that we're basically at 30 degrees, and let's see, 3 days ago we had 10.5 inches of snow, and yesterday morning when I ran in these, it was a brisk 18 degrees, which is kind of warm for when we get into January and February. It's not unusual to be 10, 15 below. Anyway, I wanted to begin to run a lot more off trail. I do run a lot of off trail barefoot, but for safety factors, you really have to know the trails well. And I wanted to be able to really get into areas I've never run before. I wanted to, as I'm an artist and as I travel around, I wanted to run in different locales. But again, going barefoot on unknown terrain, it really, it's just stupid because you just don't know where the glass is. You don't know where, certain obstacles are. And at 53, I'm just too old to totally rip up my foot. So I decided that I was going to look for a shoe. And I came across these after watching a little video on somebody on YouTube. And it was quite funny because the guy who was reviewing these was adamant that they were a great shoe, very flexible. They gave all the specs, and you can find all that on Merrell's websites. But what he said was, when he said these kind of last few words in his review, I actually kind of knew it's what I wanted, because he was adamant that these were a great walking around town shoe. They were a good yoga shoe. They were good for taking short walks. However, he would not run in them or jog in them or take them off of anywhere that wasn't clean pavement, because you could feel everything that you would feel rocks, you would feel if you stepped on a stick, you would actually feel that kind of go through the rubber, because there's literally nothing there. It's like 2 millimeter thick. And when he said that, I started to laugh, thinking, well, that's exactly what I want. I want a shoe where I feel every rock, I feel every little twig, stick, acorn, everything that I step on, because a barefoot is about feeling. It's about the emotion of the run. And I don't want to get into right now a great length of this, but why I sought these out was because, to me, running is not about speed, it's not about time, it's not about mileage. I mean, honestly, I've just had enough of that, and I think our lives are so dictated by clocks, and they're so dictated by, did we get here, did we achieve this, did we get this? And people, it's just stupid. It doesn't matter. What matters is, what did you feel? What did you experience? What did the run or the walk or the jog bring to your life that day? And that's what I'm after. And when you're completely barefoot, you run very observant, because you're constantly looking down. You're watching the surface. You're paying attention. It's not about what I always hear a lot of runners say. They want to power through the run or power through a trail. They want to, turn the sharp turn and speed through. Yeah, for what? I mean, for me, it makes no sense. So I was looking for a shoe that would give me the most realistic run, you know, very similar to Barefoot. And the Merrell Vapor Glove 2s have excelled so far. I've only had them for about 10 days now. And although I know that's not a lot of time to give a review, and I will add to this as time goes on or edit it and change it, I do want to say that I've run in these and they fit my foot so perfect. I feel everything. They just have an outstanding flexibility. I mean, seriously, these things just roll up and flex. Yesterday it was about 18 degrees when I took off running, and I had them on, and I knew where there were some really sharp jags of rock and twigs that I usually have to meander around when I'm barefoot, and I hit them full force. And I mean, I full planned it down. I just wanted to see if it would puncture through, and first off, I've hit them with my bare foot before and was bruised for about a week in this one spot. So I just hit them again, and I was a little nervous at first because I remember the bruise exactly where it was on my foot when I hit it that time. But anyway, they did it. I mean, I knew I hit it. I mean, I had to kind of jerk my foot up a little bit, but again, it didn't pierce, it didn't do anything. And it told me that this shoe is going to give me exactly what I want, which is a shoe that has great flexibility. It's extremely light. These are mesh. And again, I'm running in cold. We had 10 inches of snow the other day. I don't really care. I'm used to running barefoot. I don't run barefoot in deep snow, but I run on clear pavement. Usually last year, I think the coldest day I ran was 17 below. So it doesn't really bother me that much. Um, Last week I ran, the first run I took in them was after we had an inch of rain, and I ran a lot of muddy trails. A lot of the trail I ran was not underwater, but a lot of water, standing water. I had them completely filled with water. When your foot, I had a wool sock on, a real light icebreaker wool sock, and I'll give a great review on icebreakers later. But what was cool though was even though they filled with water really quick, as I kind of went up a hill, they shed the water just as quick. I was amazed at how quick they shed the water out. It's much like a water shoe. I mean, seriously, honestly, I windsurf, and I would probably use these. I don't know if completely windsurfing, but they would be fantastic because they not they take water, but they shed water. So with that, the only thing I want to point out is that they have a very smooth tread. I mean, there's very fine grooves in here. Again, for me, this is what I sought. And when I talked to Sarah at Two River Treads, which is where I ended up buying these out of West Virginia, I noted that and read my review on them because they were outstanding, and she was phenomenal helping me on the phone. But she pointed out that I think she said she had walked a lot of the Appalachian Trail with these like a year ago or something, but that they were smooth. She said, and if you want something with grit and bite for trail running, these might not work. Well, for me, this is what I sought. This is what I wanted. Again, I'm not a believer that we bully through a trail. I'm not a believer in, we got to have all this deep tread and we have to, muscle through and power through. For me, I think that's silly. I run with nature. I don't run against it. I think I learned a lot of that in my years of windsurfing. When you windsurf, if you try to fight against the wind and the water, it will smash you. You will fall, you will crash, you will take epic wipeouts. What you learn windsurfing is to feel the wind and you feel the water and you work with it. When I run, I want to run with nature and I want to run with the terrain and with the circumstances. So it's been the 3 trips I've had out in these, and I've run probably 20, 25 miles in them. It has been wet every run. It has been snowy, muddy, sloppy. Up and down hills, I got to kind of walk very slowly because they'll just slide on. But if I was barefoot, I would do the exact same thing. Uh, on the kind of when I can get into some grass, the wet grass, and I hit some drier ground, especially this morning when it was froze really hard, um, they did just fine. Honestly, in ideal circumstances, dirt, hard packed, dry, they're going to be phenomenal. But I was looking for something that slipped. I want to know that if If I'm going around a curve and it's wet, when you're barefoot, you walk it or you go slow. If you're walking, if it's a steep hill and it's damp, you're going to walk that hill because you're just going to fall. The human foot does not have tread on it. So I believe our bodies are not designed to bite into corners and twist and jerk our ankles. Um, and on that, what is funny is the first day I ran in these, when I got them a little over a week ago, was that there was a dry stretch I got onto in this upper part of a hill. And believe it or not, I really picked up my pace and I ran harder and I took some turns much sharper than I normally would barefoot, because normally when you're barefoot, even if it's dry, it'll give a little bit. And you feel that instantly, and your foot and your brain are in such, they're joined so immediately that your body reacts before you realize you're reacting. Well, these were biting in, and I found myself turning harder and biting harder into the corner, so they do work for that. However, I actually had to slow myself down because I don't think that's healthy for me, and I actually felt just a little bit of my knees hurt just a little bit afterwards because I jerked harder than I normally would. So for those who, I guess what I'm trying to say is if you want on dry ground and base surfaces, whatever you're running on, if it's, I've run on rock and asphalt with them too already, they're fine. They're going to be wonderful for that. If you're a true barefoot runner and you want something that gives you the truest barefoot feel, to date, these things so far, again, are phenomenal. I just simply can't say enough. One last note I want to add. I normally wear a size 10, US 10 with a B width. I have a very narrow foot. And the first set I got from Two Rivers, Sarah sent me, was I got a 10.5 because I usually, if I wear a 10 for a running shoe, for what I did wear years ago, I always wanted, a little bit of room in front of my toe. Well, that was just huge on me. I actually settled with a 9.5, and it fits. It's a men's 9.5, and I still have about a third of an inch. So these do run long. So I normally wear men's 10, and these are 9.5, and I still have about a third of an inch. Again, I'll add more to this later, but to date, oh, and they clean up really, really quick. Each time I've got done running, they were completely mud covered and soaked. I just threw them in the washer on delicate quick with just a touch of organic soap. 6 minutes, boom, wash them, hang them up on a little door handle. They dried out in an hour. The other real quick note, this morning when I ran, I did about 5 or 6 miles through trees and woods with them on. Then I got out to a roadway. It's about a 4-mile stretch of road through State Park that I live near. And I just took them off, tucked my wool socks, my little thin wool socks that I had, my icebreakers in them, and they work so good to run just holding them. They only weigh a few ounces, like 5 ounces a piece. And I absolutely had no problem running with them. I ran about 5 miles till I picked up a trail again, slipped them on, and away I went. So far, I'm beyond impressed with these. Absolutely beyond impressed. Any questions, or if you want to know a little bit more, feel free to write me. I'll give you a number if you want to talk. Lord knows I love to talk. Thanks.